Važi i kad budeš izlazio sam da hvala ti. Watch out the head here.
Okay, now if I may say welcome to our military bunkers, so definitely welcome here in two bunkers which were built, guys, in 1948 here in Belgrade. But Belgrade was the capital city of former Yugoslavia, one bigger country, and which also had a different political system. There was a communist country, Yugoslavia, in that period. So guys, what happened? 1945 is the year when Yugoslavia changed the political system from royalism to communism, the end of the war, 1945, and then the communism was established here because there was a big revolution within the country of Yugoslavia. There was a fight between royalists and communists. Communists won the royalists, but also communists won their enemies in Yugoslavia as well. Automatically, Josip Broz Tito, former president of Yugoslavia, he became a very important political figure in Yugoslavia. Then he established communism here, and then after that, Yugoslavia was a kind of an interesting cultural and let's say part of Eastern European bloc. Eastern European bloc led by Soviet Union, so communism there, and there was also one more interesting bloc on the other side. There was a Western bloc led by United States, so capitalism there or democracy, so totally different opposite systems. And Yugoslavia in those 3 years after the end of the World War II was a communist state, so it means that Yugoslavia was more turned toward the Soviet Union in everyday life, in cultural life, and something like that. But what happened, guys, in 1948, there was one year, definitely I may call it as one very important Yugoslav historical intersection. Why? Because, guys, in 1948, Stalin, the former president of Soviet Union, he wanted to be the boss everywhere in the Eastern European bloc, so it means that he wanted also to send his military forces, his spies to the Yugoslavia as well, to try to keep Yugoslavia as a very important part of the Soviet bloc, actually, to mix his fingers in our political things here, to take Yugoslavia as his political part. But what happened, guys, in 1948, when he wanted to do that, when he wanted to control Yugoslavia politically, Josip Broz Tito, that's a former communist president of communist Yugoslavia, he said historical no to Stalin. And then after that, guys, Stalin didn't expect to get a no from Tito, but Tito was the only one communist leader who said no to Stalin and survived. It's very, very interesting. And then Stalin was very, very angry after that. Also, Tito was very afraid. Why? Because after that, Soviet Union was even prepared to attack Yugoslavia, and then, guys, that's why Tito was very afraid, and then he ordered the Yugoslav People's Army in 1948 to build these bunkers when we are now to be for defense. So that's why, guys, two bunkers were built in 1948 when the relation between Soviet Union and the younger communist country, Yugoslavia, was very, very bad, and they even expected the war, the attack. So we all know that the Soviet Union had military interventions in Poland, in Czechoslovakia, in Hungary, almost everywhere, but not here in Yugoslavia. It's very interesting. So everything was prepared for one war in 1948, but the war didn't happen. There are a couple of reasons, but the main one is definitely, guys, that in that period, Tito was the only one communist leader we had, who had a lot of good connections with the Western politicians. So especially with Churchill and especially with the United States, with those politicians there. That's why, guys, in 1948, Yugoslavia got that support, political support, let's say, from the West, and automatically what happened? The Soviet Union didn't want to attack Yugoslavia, because if you imagine the Soviet Union attacks Yugoslavia, then if you imagine that the US Army jumps to help Yugoslavia in 1948, then it's already Cold War, so everything was prepared for new war with even nuclear guns, so it could be even the Third World War. That's why, guys, in 1948, when Yugoslavia got support from the Western countries, after they told, especially USA, then US Army, Soviet Army left the borderline between Yugoslavia and Hungary, left the borderline between Yugoslavia and Romania, and then the war didn't happen. So it's interesting, these bunkers, when we are now, were built to be used for the war, but the war didn't happen. And after that, guys, in next 5 years, after 1948 to 1953, Yugoslavia didn't have any political connection with the Soviet Union, and in that period, Yugoslavia politically turned toward the West. So it was still communism here, but Yugoslavia was more open toward the West and Western culture and Western influence. That's why there is a very big difference between Yugoslav communism and Yugoslavia. You heard maybe yesterday on the communist tour, for example, and then the communism in maybe Romania, Bulgaria, or some other states. So when everything from the West was forbidden in Soviet Union and the countries from Eastern European bloc, Yugoslav people were drinking Coca-Cola even in the 60s. Then there were a lot of actors from Hollywood here in the 60s, 70s, 80s as well. So people from Yugoslavia traveled west, traveled east with Yugoslav passport, which was the father of all passports. The price was $10,000 US on the black market. It's a very interesting thing. Yugoslav people during the Cold War could travel everywhere around Europe for free. Even in Berlin, the city which was totally divided between two opposite sides, Yugoslav guys were just showing passport, and both sides even didn't put even the stamp. They were just saying welcome Yugoslav here, welcome Yugoslav there. So very, very interesting. The story in 1948 happened to Yugoslavia. I told you it was prepared for war, didn't happen, and then, guys, that's why after that these bunkers were covered by soil. So when we were in front of the bunkers, you saw that we couldn't see these concrete walls around, so everything was covered by a big amount of soil, and that's why, guys, they were kept as a big military secret from 1948 until 2008. So can you imagine, even just 7-8 years ago, a lot of Belgradians, me and some friends of yours maybe, or my family or the friends of mine, definitely everyone walked around, and then we saw that there was an abnormal hill here, but nobody knew what inside is. And finally, 2008, there was the Night of Museums. Then they moved the soil from the entrance. The first group visited this place in 2008. After 2008, they knocked it again. And finally, the second official group visited this place in January 2012. And then I've done the first tour in Serbian language in January or February 2012. After that, we prepared it in English. And now, guys, I have more English tours than tours in Serbian. So it's very, very interesting that even a lot of locals, they don't know anything special about these bunkers, because they are still kind of hidden somewhere there under the soil, but there is, as you could see, official entrance. An interesting thing, we can be inside only if we are in organized group. Only if you join the Underground Secrets of Belgrade tour as a mile and the walking tour, then I always call from the Republic Square 1 or 2 numbers, and I say to the security guys, hey guys, be there, I'll be in 15 or 20 minutes with 5 or 10, 15 people, and then they open it for us. When we leave, you will see they will knock it and they will go with us to open Roman or the next place. So it's very, very interesting, and in my opinion, they are not so smart. Why? Because, guys, you can imagine just maybe to spend, I don't know, 2, 3, 4,000 euros to clean the place better, then to put some Tito's photos here, then some Stalin's photos there, then to write something about 2 guys, then about the relation between 2 countries, then, guys, maybe, yeah, I didn't tell you a very important thing. By the way, this is an original place from 1948. So what we saw here, we went down the stairs, then we continued continue through the 40 meters long tunnel. You remember that we saw 2 empty rooms on the right side. 2 empty rooms were for vehicles, for guns, for gunpowder, something like that. Then you saw maybe down there that there are a couple of doors. One of them, when you open, you get to the sleeping room with the original remains of the beds where soldiers slept in 1948. There are even 4 tanks for water inside. Then you could see stairs, and this place where we are now was the most important one. Why? Because exactly here in the middle of the tower was the place for one movable top, movable cannon. So this wall here, which is now walled up with the bricks, that was actually opened wall. So exactly here in the middle was one more war machine to look at the sky above Belgrade to try to hit those enemies who were maybe in Serbian or Yugoslav sky in that period. But I told you, the war didn't happen. They just walled up them, covered it, and then everything stayed after 1948 originally. So definitely, guys, I told you this place could be even a museum if you imagine some photos around. Then one of those cannons from the open air exhibition which I showed you a couple of minutes ago. Then you can imagine it here, and then the good view from here, and then I don't know, 2-3 volunteers with some plastic guns, and it could be a very interesting museum of I don't know, communism or something like that. And nothing happened so far. Maybe we'll wait a couple of years, I'll become the president of the country, and then everything will be better here. Just kidding, my idea is not to be president, but definitely to show you the beauty of Belgrade and some other interesting stories, definitely. So I guys think that this was everything what I prepared. By the way, there is one more important story. There is a big difference. I told you that there are 2 towers. There is one here where we are now, and there is one at the beginning where the girls were above when we go to the place. So there are 2 towers. The only one big difference between 2 towers is direction where they look. So this part where the bricks are now, here from this tower looks more toward northeast. Northeast from Belgrade is guys Timișoara, Romanian city. Then the first tower there, that tower is more open toward north. North from Belgrade is Budapest, Hungarian capital. Why Budapest and Timișoara? Because guys, these 2 cities were the closest cities to Belgrade outside of Yugoslavia, where Stalin had a very important political influence in Hungary and Romania after the World War II, we know that, and also the closest airports outside of Yugoslavia to Belgrade were in Budapest and in Timișoara. So Stalin planes were waiting there to get a sign and to try to bomb Belgrade and the rest of the country. So there are bunkers too, and there are 2 of them here, and there are even more of them on the other side of Belgrade, but they are totally closed for public. If we talk about the underground places prepared in the case of war during Tito's reign, the biggest one of them is situated, guys, 35 kilometers south from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. When you go down Sarajevo south to Mostar, there is one interesting city, small town called Konjic. And then there are, guys, 25,000 square meters in the underground of Konjic town, everything prepared even for the case of nuclear war maybe. But also there are bunkers here because they're expecting that Belgrade could be the first target in the conflict. Very interesting story, long story, but yeah, very, very interesting and important for that's an intersection of Yugoslav communism 1948. This is everything what I prepared for this story. Now we'll slowly go down the stairs. You will get to the room to see how it looks like. It was not so cozy inside. The place is not prepared for tall basketball guys. The place is prepared for shorter guys. They're maybe not so strong, but they're faster to manage maybe war machines to defend Belgrade in their case, or war and the rest of the country behind. That's it. So now we can slowly go down the stairs to visit the first tower and to see the that's one room, but the light doesn't work inside, that's why we go to the next one. This was also part of ventilation system. So voda za piće here, guys, means drinking water, 200 liters. Drinking water, 200 liters. There are 2 of them here, and there are 2 of them at the beginning. And also, you can take a look at the doors. Those are also original ones, so all of them steel doors. That's for the extinguisher, fire extinguisher. I mentioned the story about these rooms as well. You can get inside, but they are empty. The point of them is, guys, to be for gunpowder for vehicles. In the case of explosion inside, the guys who slept maybe in the room could survive because the explosion is here. You can go there, and you will see the same thing. Very soon you will prepare yourself for one small joke, and you will see totally the same design by different directions. So north and northwest. You can also go to see the room there, but just 2 seconds, one small joke. 1, 2, 3. Oh wow. That was just a small joke to feel how it is when there is no light inside. Yeah. If you want to be in the water, please. You just take. So that's it. You can see it's the same design by different directions, almost everything the same. Now the same way we are leading the police. I'll be the last one to turn on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Йдемо на